from Black Film and TV, talking to the director, Deon Taylor, and the star of his new movie, The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2, Mr. Katt Williams. How are you guys doing? Katt, you good?
Doing good. Excellent, thanks.
So Deon,
I'm doing great.
So talk to me about putting this sequel together, stemming from the first film. Did you know you were going to do a sequel, and how did you come about and bringing Katt on board?
No, I didn't. I never knew it was going to be another one. What's crazy, man, is we made, myself and Mike stepped out and made the first movie. And I always tell people, like, I was in a crossroads of my life when I made Meet the Blacks. I had just finished a film called Supremacy, and which had Danny Glover, Mahershala Ali, Don Olivier, and we were kind of doing the whole festival circuit with the film, 16 millimeter movie, and people was loving it, and I couldn't find distribution for the movie. And it was the third time that I had made a film where I could not find a studio to buy my film. And I was like, I'm done with movies. And a couple months later, I ended up running into Mike, and he was like, Deon, I want to do one of them horror movies, man. Like, what we got to do? And I'm like, man, you ain't doing no damn horror movie, man. Would nobody even like see you in a horror film? The movie The Purge that came out, I walked out of the theater and was like, I got an idea. And it was the craziest idea I ever had. Went to Mike, pitched him the idea to do like a Black Purge movie. He loved it. We were shooting like literally 60, this is some real independent film. We were shooting like 60 days later, had 13 days to shoot this little movie. We finished the film. And again, I couldn't find distribution. And at this point, I was like, this is crazy. We got all these great people in the movie. We end up, myself and Roxanne, taking the movie, cutting our own trailer, cutting our own promo items, and putting the movie into theaters by ourselves. Now, that movie opens against Batman versus Superman. So everyone's going like, oh man, y'all tripping, y'all, the movie ends up opening number 4, has the highest per screen average ever. I'm shocked. We're like, what the hell just happened? And it changed my life. Now, since then, I go on to do Black and Blue, Fatale, everything that I'm doing. And everywhere I go, no matter what medium I'm in, someone will say, hey, are you going to ever do another Meet the Blacks? And then soon enough, man, we start seeing that Meet the Blacks is tracking, it's trending, it's on the top of all these comedy lists. And what people don't know is I had spoke to Katt Williams before ever doing a movie with Mike. And we were trying to connect. His schedule got a little bit out of order. We couldn't do it that way. So when it came back around, when all the energy was picking up, I went back to Katt and I said, man, we got this great project. You know it. You loved the earlier one. And we were just so blessed, man. I tell you, Wilson, like, Katt is legendary in all ways. You know what I mean? So this was not an easy approach, like, oh yeah, let's just call Katt. Like, that don't happen. So Katt got it first, he got to know the material. Secondly, he got to opt in. Third, he got to be like, all right, what is this? And I was just blessed enough, man, to have a movie and a character that actually fit him. And now that we look back on it, I know you haven't had an opportunity to see the film yet, but now that I look back on it, there's no one in the world that could do this but him. So it's kind of like one of the things where you like, yo, you look at it and you say, damn, like, I can't even imagine as a filmmaker, like, who else could that have been? But he's fantastic. He plays the neighbor in the movie. And without the performance that he was able to give in this film, the film does not work at all. It would fall on his face. So I'm blessed to have him. And that's kind of like the story of how we got to the sequel.
Katt, what's your version of the story? Like, obviously, like you said, you guys knew about it before the project came, to be, at least the first movie. Now it's successful, and you're back, you're co-starring in the sequel. How did this come about?
Well, I don't get the financial particulars in the beginning, and I don't get who is starring in the film. I get the script. And so I just base my decisions on reading the script and then get the information if there's interest. And so in this particular movie, there were already 6 reasons why I was already prepared to turn this down, just because, if the word pimp is in it, I'm almost guaranteed to say no, just because I do these characters and my intent is to do this character well enough that I don't have to revisit this. There's nothing left there. I got everything from that. But this script was a surprise in every way. And as an avid reader, it was a great read. It's always a good movie in my book if halfway through you still don't know what's going to happen. And so that element of movie making was a good thing for me. And the fact that I was already familiar with Deon's work before this ever came up. I was one of those people that couldn't believe that Supremacy was not getting its due recognition. So I knew that this was a special director, and I'm in the same lane as 75% of the cast being stand-up comedians. So it was a great opportunity, and I just needed to not mess it up. So the only new components to the whole are me and my henchmen. So Corey Zooman Miller and I were able to just come and really represent, because a great foundation had already been set up comedically, if that makes sense.
Now, Deon, when you have comedians in a movie and you have, two of the best here, which is Mike and Katt, and then you have other people in the movie, you say you want, the script and the part plays to them. But, do you let them ad lib when they're doing these scenes to punch it up a bit, or is it all on the page?
No, any director that tells you that they could write for Katt Williams, Mike Epps, Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Richard Pryor is a damn lie. you can't do it. You know what I mean? So my job is very simple. I write the lines and create the narrative that they need to live in. And obviously it's not line by line, but part of why they're there is because I trust their genius. And that's the same with actors. When I'm shooting Black and Blue and I have Oscar nominated Naomi Harris on set with me, it's multiple conversations with, how do you think this should play out? And it's the same thing with Katt, and it's the same thing with Epps. And I find that if you cast the right people, they tend to be what you need them to be, which is legendary at what they do. So kind of when we were making this film, a lot of it was, yes, here's the storyline, here's where we're going, here are the lines, but now tell me with your genius, how would you say this? What would you do? Do you like this? Is that right? Do you feel like you would say something else? Because when you're talking about Katt playing a character in a movie like this, it was very interesting. Look, it took the cast around a week and a half to realize, and it was like, it's 12 people in the cast. It took them about a week and a half of coming up to me one by one, individually at certain times, be like, yo, Katt really into this shit, huh? And I'm like, yeah, because he has to be, right? He is the most colorful, eccentric character in the movie. So if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, then it doesn't work, like I said earlier. So part of that was me and Katt spending a lot of time together, talking, going over wardrobe, going over ideas, all the way down to the point to where Katt had to figure out, how does he speak? When does he speak? When do we let Corey speak? You know what I mean? And it was very, very cool process, but it also allowed me to understand why Katt also is an Emmy award-winning actor. You know what I mean? Is because he is there on the spot, ready to go, and his talent actually is, he hasn't even scraped the ceiling of what he's gonna be. So yeah, that's kind of, it was a lot of, let me hear what you would do, and us working together as a partnership versus a director telling an actor, do this.
Mhm. So, Katt, you've been in plenty of projects, TV, films. This is another one. So, talk to me about getting on set, playing your role and working with this ensemble.
Yeah, well, as an actor, I'm always trying to get better with each role. And so part of this guy's appeal is that he's not the funny guy. He's, for all intents and purposes, the straight man. Now, he is funny, but he doesn't know that he's as funny as he is. And so that's really where the men wearing dresses in Hollywood comes from, is whatever you are as a person, they want to see what is the extreme opposite of you. And that's when it's really acting. And this character gave me that ability to really be somebody completely different than myself without being able to use my past or my upbringing or other projects. There was nothing I could bring to this except for my love of Bram Stoker's Dracula and the fact that I wanted Meet the Blacks 2 to outdo Meet the Blacks 1. So it was a nice, healthy experiment for me and gave me a chance to do a point guard role that was really played out well on film. It looks collaborative as opposed to competitive, if that makes sense.
No, that definitely does. And Deon, obviously, because this is a sequel, how often did you go back to the first one and said, okay, this has to be more scarier, more funny, even though you're bringing in a new cast in there, so that way it doesn't seem like, oh, it's a rehash.
Yeah, you know what is interesting? I've never went back to look at the original, just because, the original was done from a very, very, independent, low down, dirty place. We were scrapping to do what we could do, man. You shoot a movie in 12 days, you get those types of results, you really won. You know what I mean? And what I understood about part one, and like most of my films, is that I make movies for audiences. I make movies for people that look like me, that want to spend their $20 and be entertained. I'm not trying to do anything else but that, because growing up the way I grew up, if my mom spent $35, $40 to take us to the movies, that was a lot of money. So we wanted to be entertained. And if we weren't entertained, she was at the front getting our money back, sending all that shit back. like we out of here, because that's what it's about. So when we went into part two, I knew I had more money. I knew I had Katt, which was to me was the juggernaut. I knew I had Epps. We knew what we had built with part one. We had created our own brand. And I went into this one a little bit differently, man. I went in this we now have our own franchise. It's not owned by anyone else but us. We distributed it. We marketed it. It won. The culture loves it, period. So now how do we grow on that? And we elevated it with Katt's character. We elevated it by bringing certain people back. We elevated it by bringing Danny Trejo. You know what I mean? We elevated it by bringing Rick Ross. We elevated by bringing the cinematographer that shot all of the Vampire Diaries. Jeff Zanelli, who did Pirates of the Caribbean, scored the movie. So all of those things for me was like, all right, I'm gonna take what I built and I'm gonna build it even better the second time. And then that way we get to ready to do a third one. Right now the world knows about it and it'll be the overnight success that no one knew about.
Katt, obviously I didn't get a chance to talk to you. Dan, congrats on the Emmy. How has life changed for you since?
Yeah, Katt. Wait, time out, man. Time out. Yeah, Katt.
Give him that clap. Emmy Award. People like that moniker. At the end of the day, there aren't that many Black folks that can say Emmy Award winning actor. You say, and for you, Katt, who's worked a long time, and some of your peers don't have that moniker. You do. So the question is, are people going out to you more to do certain roles, or do you still find, as long as you've been in the game, that you still got to go out and get work? I'm not saying it's easy. It's never going to be easy for a Black actor, but have things gotten a little bit easier, like in terms of the scripts you're getting or the roles you're getting?
Interestingly enough, the reason that the Emmy meant so much to me was because it was the first time that I had been submitted. So understand I had done 40 bodies of work and my own people hadn't submitted that to the Emmy nomination board. So I was shocked that I had not been nominated before. And I was gratified that on my first entry in, I was able to get one. But that's what made it so meaningful for me. By the same token, I never was in it for that. I really am in it for how the people feel about whatever it is. So it doesn't bother me to not have a large role. I base my role on what it is. My job is to milk as much out of this role as possible. So before the Emmy, I was turning down 60 to 70 projects for every 7 that I take. And I don't see that part changing. But it does show that you do good work. Mm-hmm. And in the particular piece that I played that got me the Emmy, there is no Katt Williams in that character. That is that character and the life it has. And as a creative, that's the best that you're trying to do, is make these parts live as the writer intended, and to bring a life and a buoyancy from off of the paper onto the screen. And so I relish each of those opportunities, but this was the real largest showcase that I've had for my range that's not related to an immediate laugh. So I was thankful for that.
Having said that, Deon, where Katt obviously chooses a rare amount of projects to do, knowing that you have him and then you have Mike and then you have the rest of the cast. At the end of the day, sometimes I say, I looked at the cast you have, you had 14 posters, and as we wrap up, how do you put everybody together so each one can stand out, as opposed to just Mike and Katt, but everybody goes, oh, I was in that movie, or I remember your scene?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of me, in a way, being a former athlete, and I think that's what cuts me differently than a lot of filmmakers that I have personally met in Hollywood, where there's a lot of ego involved. I don't have an ego. I'm here. God has blessed me to be able to make film and art. But more importantly, I come from a place of a basketball background where it's a team effort, right? Like, in other words, you can't win. Kobe didn't even win the game when he scored 81. You know what I mean? So everybody got to play a role. And it's like a lot like the Bulls, where if you got Michael Jordan, you need Kerr in the corner, and you need Rodman rebound. And so I approach film that way. And it's interesting, earlier, Katt had just the greatest analogy of how we did this film. And it's kind of like the Brooklyn Nets, and James Harden came to the Nets, and everybody was like, well, they got Kyrie and they got Kevin Durant. Like, what's James Harden? And James Harden became a point guard. And that's exactly how we looked at this film. Like, he came in as a gunslinger, like, oh yeah, but y'all didn't know I could do this too. You know what I mean? And it makes it work where everyone's not, like he said, everyone's not competing, everyone's not in competition, everyone's collaborating. And when you have that type of energy and you push that out there into people, they want to do well, man. They want to win, they want to succeed. And then when the movie is time to be marketed, they want to go market the movie and stand behind it. And that's why on June 7th, the world premiere is going to be incredible, man. But I am most proud, and I'd say this without skipping a beat. I am most proud about Mike's willingness to work with Katt, and I'm most proud of Katt's willingness to work with Mike. But for both of them to show up and do something special, I've never seen this character that Katt has ever. I could even imagine it on paper until I seen him do it. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised. I think people are going to laugh. But more importantly, I think this is a classic that we'll have around for a very, very long time. And we'll see, man. We got a big announcement coming up soon that's with Katt. And I think people gonna be real shocked, man. They're gonna be like, wait, what's going on? There's gonna be some great things happening after this.